During our anniversary dinner, my husband's mother called him 17 times. When I asked him to ignore it, he scoffed, "She's more important than a meal." I smiled and said, "Oh, don't worry, she'll be seeing a lot more of you soon." He laughed until he saw the paper I slid across the table. I didn't go into my marriage thinking I'd ever be sitting across from my husband, watching his face go pale as he realized I was done. But there we were. It was our anniversary, 5 years of marriage. I had planned everything down to the smallest detail. I booked a reservation at a gorgeous restaurant in downtown Chicago, a place we had always talked about trying but never did. I picked out a dress I had saved for a special occasion. I even bought Mark a gift I knew he would love. But the one thing I didn't account for was his mother. I should have. She had been a problem since day one. The first call came as we were being seated. The second came before we even ordered drinks. By the third time his phone buzzed, I was already irritated. By the time our appetizers arrived, his phone had gone off 17 times. I watched him as he casually reached for his phone again, barely paying attention to me, the dinner, or the fact that we were supposed to be celebrating our marriage. "Are you going to ignore that?" I asked, keeping my voice even. Mark barely looked up. "She probably just needs something." I set my fork down. "Mark, we're at our anniversary dinner. Can it wait?" He laughed. Not in a mean way, but in a dismissive, "you're being ridiculous" kind of way. "She's more important than a meal," he said, shaking his head like I was the crazy one. And that's when I smiled. Because I knew something he didn't. I reached into my purse, pulled out a neatly folded document, and slid it across the table. Mark blinked. He hesitated before picking it up. As he unfolded it, I watched his face drain of color. "What is this?" I took a sip of my wine, savoring the moment. "A copy of the divorce papers I filed this morning. To be clear, this wasn't about a few phone calls. If it were just that, I wouldn't be sitting here watching my soon-to-be ex-husband panic over a legal document. No, this was about years of putting up with his mother treating me like an afterthought. I knew from the start that Mark and his mom were close. That's fine. I respected that. What I didn't respect was how she inserted herself into every part of our lives and how Mark let it happen. She had a key to our house and would let herself in whenever she wanted. It didn't matter if we were sleeping, eating, or spending time together. If she wanted something, she was there. She expected weekly dinners at our place, and not only did she never contribute, but she also made me cook. If I tried to suggest we eat out or that Mark help, she would sigh dramatically and say things like, "I just miss my boys' home-cooked meals." If I ever pushed back, she had a meltdown. Tears, guilt trips, the works. And Mark? He'd always say the same thing, "She means well." She definitely didn't mean well when I had a miscarriage last year, and she told me, to my face, that it was for the best because she wasn't sure I'd be a good mother. She didn't mean well when she suggested Mark deserved someone who could actually carry a baby. And Mark certainly didn't mean well when his response was a shrug. "She didn't mean it like that," he had said. That was the moment I knew. I was done. But I didn't just leave. I planned. I took my time, made sure my finances were in order, documented every ridiculous thing his mother did, and got a lawyer. The night before our anniversary, I packed my bags and left them with a friend. Then, I showed up to dinner like nothing was wrong. Mark was frozen. He looked at the papers like they might burn him. "You're leaving me?" I tilted my head. "Yes, Mark. I am." His mouth opened and closed like he was trying to form words, but couldn't quite get them out. But," he finally stammered, "what about us?" I let out a soft laugh. "There is no us, Mark. There's just you and your mother." His jaw clenched. "That's not fair." I raised an eyebrow. "Isn't it?" His phone buzzed again. I leaned back in my chair, watching him. "You should answer that." He didn't. He just sat there, staring at the papers. I took one last sip of my wine, grabbed my purse, and stood up. "Happy anniversary, Mark," I said, and walked away. I walked out of that restaurant feeling lighter than I had in years. For the first time in a long time, I was free. Or at least, that's what I thought. I should have known Mark's mother wouldn't let me go that easily. I barely made it 2 blocks before my phone rang. It was Mark. I let it go to voicemail. Then he called again. And again. By the time I reached my car, I had 7 missed calls and a flurry of text messages. "Mark, are you serious right now? Mark, you're really going to throw away our marriage over one dinner? Mark, please, just talk to me. Mark, I don't understand." That last one almost made me laugh. He didn't understand? I had spent years explaining. Years trying to set boundaries, trying to make him see what was happening, trying to make him care. He didn't get it then. He wasn't going to get it now. I turned my phone on silent and drove to my friend Sophie's house, where I had been staying since I packed my bags the night before. I had barely stepped inside before Sophie looked up from her wine glass and said, "So, how did it go?" I tossed my purse onto the couch and exhaled. He looked like he saw a ghost. Sophie grinned. Good. But it wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of pounding on the door. Sophie groaned from the other room. Who the hell is that? I didn't have to check. I already knew. I pulled on a sweater and walked to the door. When I opened it, Mark was standing there, disheveled and panicked. You're staying here? He asked, glancing past me into the apartment. I folded my arms. Where else would I be? His jaw tightened. You didn't even come home. No, Mark. I didn't. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. You blindsided me. That almost made me laugh. I blindsided you? Mark took a step forward, and I immediately moved back, gripping the door. Please, he said, lowering his voice. Can we just talk? Just you and me. Sophie's voice rang out from the kitchen. Not happening. I almost smiled. Mark clenched his fists. Stay out of this, Sophie. Sophie walked into the room, arms crossed. You showed up at my house, Mark. You don't get to tell me what to do. He turned back to me. Look, I get that you're mad. No, I cut in. You don't. If you did, we wouldn't be standing here. He swallowed. Can we go somewhere? Just to talk. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I sighed. Fine. We met at a small cafe down the street. Neutral ground. Mark looked tired. Like he hadn't slept. Good. He fiddled with his coffee cup before finally speaking. You can't just throw away 5 years like this. I stirred my tea. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm walking away. Mark exhaled sharply. Because of her? I set my spoon down. Because of you. He flinched. I didn't marry your mother, Mark, I said. But I spent the last 5 years competing with her. She's just manipulative, controlling, and incapable of respecting boundaries. Mark looked away. Do you know what she did when I had the miscarriage? I asked. Do you remember what she said to me? Silence. I leaned forward. Because I do. He sighed. She didn't mean it like that. And there it was. The same excuse. The same excuse I had heard 100 times before. I laughed bitterly. You really think that still works on me? Mark looked at me like he didn't know who I was anymore. Maybe he didn't. I wasn't the same woman who had begged him to stand up for me. The woman who had swallowed every cruel word his mother threw my way. The woman who had spent 5 years bending over backwards for a marriage that only worked when I did all the work. That woman was gone. Mark rubbed his face. What do you want me to do? I tilted my head. You really want to know? He nodded. I smiled. I want you to go home. Mark didn't leave. Not really. Sure, he left the cafe. But he didn't let me go. He called. He texted. He even left voicemails, something he never did. But then the real nightmare began. Because Mark wasn't the only one trying to reach me. His mother was too. And unlike Mark, she wasn't playing nice. The first message was almost funny. ML, sweetheart, I know you're upset. Come home. We can fix this. I ignored it. The second message made me roll my eyes. ML, Mark is heartbroken. How could you do this to him? Then came the third. ML, you're making a huge mistake. If you don't come back, you'll regret it. Regret it? I stared at my phone. Then, 2 minutes later, the fourth message came. ML, you don't want to make an enemy out of me. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Sophie read over my shoulder. She did not just say that. Oh, but she did. And I had a feeling this was just the beginning. I knew my mother-in-law was manipulative. I knew she was overbearing. But I didn't know just how far she was willing to go, not until the threats started turning into actions. At first, I brushed it off. I figured she was just having one of her dramatic episodes. But as the days passed, things started happening that I couldn't ignore. It started small. I got a fraud alert on my credit card for a $500 jewelry store purchase in Mark's name. Except I hadn't bought anything. I called the bank, thinking it was just a mistake. No, ma'am, the representative said. The purchase was made with your card at a physical location. Do you recognize this transaction? I felt my stomach drop. No, I don't. They canceled my card, refunded the charge, and told me to be careful. I wasn't worried yet. Maybe it was a mix-up. Maybe. Then I got another alert the next day. This time, it was for a rental truck. And the day after that? A florist order for a funeral arrangement with my name on the card. It was no longer a coincidence. I knew exactly who was behind it. I called Mark. He picked up on the second ring. Are you ready to come home yet? I ignored his question. Did you use my card? Silence. Then, what are you talking about? I clenched my jaw. Someone tried to rent a moving truck in my name. Someone ordered funeral flowers with my name on the card. I don't need to guess who it was. Mark sighed. I don't know anything about that. Then tell your mother to stop. I'm not getting in the middle of this. I laughed. I couldn't help it. He was already in the middle. He just refused to admit it. Mark, I said, my voice deadly calm. Tell her to stop. Then I hung up. That was my mistake. I should have gone to the police right then, because things were about to get so much worse. 2 days later, I came home from running errands to find the front door of Sophie's apartment wide open. I froze. Sophie, I called. No answer. My heart pounded as I stepped inside. The living room was trashed, cushions thrown everywhere, drawers pulled out, papers scattered across the floor. Then I saw it. A picture of me and Mark from our wedding, ripped in half and left on the coffee table. And underneath it, a note, scrawled in red ink, homewrecker. I backed out of the apartment, shaking, and grabbed my phone. I called Sophie first. She was at work, safe. Thank God. Then I called the police. The cops arrived fast. They asked me the usual questions. Do you have any idea who could have done this? I handed them my phone. Start here. They took pictures. Made notes. Said they'd look into it. I wasn't holding my breath. Then one of them frowned at my front door. There's no sign of forced entry, he said. I blinked. What? He pointed at the lock. No damage. No scratches. Someone had a key. A key. A key that I never gave to anyone but Sophie, and I felt my blood turn to ice. Mark had a key. And if Mark had a key, so did his mother. I didn't bother calling Mark this time. I drove straight to our house. I didn't knock. I used my key and let myself in. Mark was in the kitchen. He looked up, surprised. Where's your mother? I demanded. He blinked. What? Where is she? She's at home. I pulled out my phone and slammed it on the counter, showing him the picture of the break-in. Then explain this. Mark's face went pale. What is this? Don't play dumb, Mark, I snapped. Your mother broke into my friend's apartment. She trashed the place. She left a threat. His eyes darted to the picture. That doesn't make sense. She wouldn't, I laughed, sharp and bitter. Really? Because this is exactly something she would do. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. Did you give her a copy of the key? He hesitated. That was all I needed to know. I took a slow, deep breath. You better hope she has a damn good alibi, because the cops are looking into this. And if she's involved, she's getting arrested. Mark flinched. You wouldn't. I met his eyes. Try me. I expected Mark to argue, to deny, to defend her. But instead, he sagged against the counter, rubbing his temples. I didn't think it would get this bad, he mumbled. I went still. He knew. Maybe not about the break-in. Maybe not about the stolen credit card. But he knew she was doing something. And he let it happen. My throat tightened. You knew. Mark looked at me, exhausted. She was upset. She wanted to fix things. Fix things. My voice shook. By breaking into an apartment? By stealing my money. He exhaled. I thought if I ignored it, she'd stop. He didn't think ignoring her would stop her when she was ruining our marriage. But now, when she was ruining my life, he suddenly thought she'd get tired and move on. I stared at him, feeling something in me snap. Mark wasn't just an enabler. He was a coward. And he was never going to change. I took a step back. Stay away from me, Mark. He frowned. What? I turned and walked toward the door. Wait. Where are you going? I didn't answer, because I knew exactly what I needed to do next. I needed to stop playing defense. It was time to go on the offensive. I wasn't scared. I was furious. Mark had always made excuses for his mother, but now I knew the truth. He knew what she was doing, and he let it happen. Maybe he didn't tell her to break into Sophie's apartment, but he didn't stop her. He didn't warn me. He didn't care enough to do anything. I walked out of our house that night with one thought in my mind. I was going to end this. Not just the marriage. Not just my relationship with Mark. I was going to make sure his mother never had a grip on my life again. The next morning, I sat in a lawyer's office, going through the process of filing a restraining order against my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law. I handed over the texts, the credit card fraud, the police report from the break-in. My lawyer's face was unreadable as she flipped through the evidence. Finally, she looked at me and said, "This isn't just harassment. This is a pattern of stalking and intimidation." I exhaled. So what do? We file this immediately. If she contacts you again, we press charges. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control. I wasn't just reacting. I was fighting back. That night, I got a call. Not from Mark. From her. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding. Then, slowly, I answered. A voice, sickly sweet, filled my ear. "Oh, sweetheart. I heard you've been busy." I clenched my jaw. "Stay away from me." She chuckled. "After all I've done for you?" I tried to welcome you into our family, and this is how you thank me. I laughed. You tried to control me. You tried to destroy my marriage. You broke into my friend's home. Silence. Then, low and sharp, you were never good enough for my son. I closed my eyes, a strange sense of calm washing over me. Then it's a good thing I'm not your problem anymore. Then I hung up. But I wasn't done yet. A week later, I met Mark at the courthouse to finalize the divorce. He looked worse than before, dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, his usual confidence gone. But I didn't feel bad for him. He had chosen this. As we sat outside the courtroom, his lawyer whispering to him, I noticed movement from the hallway. And then, she appeared. His mother. She walked in like she owned the place, wearing her usual expensive coat, her lips curled in satisfaction like she had already won. Except she didn't know what was coming. Because the next moment, the police walked up to her. Ma'am, we have a warrant for your arrest. Her face collapsed. She turned to Mark, eyes wide with panic. Mark, do something. But Mark just sat there, frozen. A small, sharp gasp echoed through the hallway as Sophie, who had come with me for support, covered her mouth. I just watched. The officers placed handcuffs around her wrists, reading her rights as she sputtered in disbelief. This is a mistake, she shrieked. I didn't do anything. She's lying. No one listened, because the evidence spoke louder than her. And then, she looked at Mark. The golden child. The son she had always controlled. Mark, she pleaded. You can fix this. For the first time in his life, Mark didn't move. Didn't defend her. Didn't argue. He just watched as the cops led her away. Mark finally spoke as I stood to leave. I didn't think it would end like this. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I didn't see my husband anymore. I saw a man who let this happen. I saw a man who was lost without his mother telling him what to do. And I felt nothing for him. Not love. Not hate. Not regret. Nothing. I picked up my bag and met his eyes. You did this to yourself. Then I walked away. For good. A month later, I was officially divorced. His mother was facing charges for fraud, breaking and entering, and harassment. Mark tried to reach out once. Just once. But I had changed my number. I was free. And for the first time in my life, I realized something. Losing Mark wasn't a tragedy. It was the best thing that ever happened to me.